Welcome back, friends, to the Real Friends podcast. We have a Herculean review for you today. This Friday, Final Destination Bloodlines comes out, which is the sixth film in the franchise. So I said to Tony, hey, let's watch the first five and review them. And how was that, pal? How was watching all five of those, getting ready for this?
It was awesome. I mean, watching it the second time around, I caught things I didn't catch the first time, and it was amazing. I
Yeah.
mean, what an awesome franchise this is.
And you and I just figured out, and we've got my buddy right here, the monkey that came out earlier this year, is a spin-off of Final Destination.
Yes.
So you were showing me that they show an image of the monkey in the first film, right at the beginning. So yeah, we're getting two Final Destination movies in 1 year. That's pretty awesome. So we're gonna do it. We're gonna try to not take 6 hours and review these.
I don't think we have 6 hours to
That's
review
true.
these.
That's true.
We're
We
gonna
don't.
be on stage in like less than seven.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. But we want to go down. What we want to do is give all of you and us, honestly, a recap of everything Final Destination so far, so that you can go into this movie and be ready to roll. So let's start the year 2000, right? The first Final Destination, directed by James Wong. This really catapulted the rest of the franchise. I don't know this for sure, but I feel like this was a one-off movie that they made, and because it did well, they kept going.
I totally agree because if you, I, I mean, I don't think there was any thought process in going forward with it
Yeah.
at all, but it made 118 million.
And a lot of
Well,
yeah,
98.
a lot of times with horror films, you get a low budget horror movie that does really well and they make a lot of money and they're like, cool, we can keep going. I mean, the budget for this movie was only $23 million. And
112.
and yeah, according to Wikipedia, they made almost 113 million.
Yeah.
So that's nearly $100 million profit. And I don't know what the marketing was like in 2000. The marketing for uh, Final Destination Bloodlines has been insane. So good. There was I don't know if you saw it. I'll put a picture of it up here if I can find it. There's a log truck driving around advertising Final Destination.
Oh, that is cool. Jumping forward just a little bit, you talk about log truck. It kind of blew my mind in part five
Yeah.
that you see another log truck.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah, it's the
yeah,
callbacks in
funny.
this are very impressive, and we talked about this too. It's even more impressive because it's not all the same director. We have five movies and three different directors.
Yes.
So the first movie and the third movie, both directed by James Wong. The second two, both directed by
David
David
Ellis.
Ellis. Yeah, and then David Ellis also produced the fifth film.
Oh, I
Um,
didn't notice that.
Yep, yep, he produced the fifth film. So yeah, the first movie, it's iconic. I hope everybody knows it. It's an airplane crash, right?
What you were saying about the directors, but it was so iconic about the writers too,
Yeah,
because the first and the third movie again written by the same person,
yep,
and the second and fourth written by the same person.
yeah. And you can feel that, right? Like I didn't
Yeah.
know that when I was
Well,
watching these yesterday, but the first and the third movie feel very, very similar. The second one feels very different from those two.
yes, in a way. I mean,
In the
I,
structure of the film, at least, like how long it is. Like we'll get into it as we get into each one, but like in the couple of the movies, the premonition happens like 6 minutes in.
yes,
Other ones, it's almost half an hour of build up until that premonition happens.
I kind of like the build up though.
Sure.
Kind of, because I thought that I was watching the one. I have a note in here then when we get to it, but I thought it was kind of rushed.
Yeah.
There was a couple things rushed, and I think that I like movies that are an hour and a half long, but they could have been 2 hours long,
Yeah.
and they could have like at least put a little bit more into it and just
Sure.
rushed it so much.
Sure. Yeah, they were very strict about their 90-minute timeline, which I appreciate in a film as long as you can do it. It's tough to do a 30-minute build up for a 90-minute movie, but it happens.
Yeah.
So, I would say probably some of our more iconic actors are in this first one, right? Like Sean William Scott at like the
Yes.
peak of Sean William Scott, American Pie, things
Yes.
like that. He's in this and he's great. And then Devon Sawa, who, plays Alex, he's the lead.
But you got Ali Larter.
Then you
That
got
is
Ali
freaking
Larter.
phenomenal. I mean,
Yeah.
she's just like awesome.
Yep.
And Kerr Smith. I played Carter.
Hmm.
He's been in a lot of other stuff I've seen.
Yeah.
I can't recall off the top of my
He
head,
seems
but
like a
he's
guy that was
awesome.
probably in like Buffy the Vampire Slayer and stuff like that. Like he just looks that way.
I think he might have been in. Was he in American Pie? I'm gonna look that up.
Maybe. He does kind of look like one of the guys in there. Basically, right, the premise is they're going to take a flight to Paris. And, right before the flight takes off, Alex has this vision of everyone on the plane dying, and he goes ballistic. And gets thrown off the plane, as well as Carter, who tries to fight him. And then as he's getting off the plane, a few other people come, like Clear. And her name is Clear, like you take
Clear.
panels and put them on someone and go Clear, not Claire. Which I didn't realize until looking at the billing. I thought they were saying Claire.
I didn't realize it until you told me.
Yeah. Um, so, all these people are getting off the plane and they're like, what's going on? We can't do this. And then the plane takes off and it explodes, making it real. And we get what we kind of get in every film, where we get a moment where all of the survivors go to the police station and the police think that the person that had the premonition had something to do with it. But it's really great because right before this, one of my favorite lines in this entire franchise is Carter and Alex are fighting. And Alex finally goes, "The only trip you're taking is to the hospital," and starts beating him up. I like that a lot. Um, but yeah, so they were supposed to be on flight 180, and the number 180 is very, very, very important in this movie. And the
In the
entire
franchise.
franchise. Yeah,
In
in
the
the entire
franchise.
franchise. And I don't know why I didn't find it, but 180 makes me feel like it's just because you're completely turning around and changing something. And
Yeah.
maybe that's Death's thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. But one thing I liked about this, and it makes sense the monkey is a part of it, is we get a lot of Chekhov's gun. We get a lot of seeing things that are going to affect you before it ever happens. Um, so yeah, and all these movies have different songs. I tried to keep track of them, but songs that play right before you're gonna die. So this one has John Denver's Rocky Mountain High.
Yes.
And John Denver, according to this film, I don't know if this is true, died in a plane accident.
Yeah,
So
I noticed that too.
yeah,
I don't know. I'm gonna look that up though.
sure. Yeah, while you're doing that, I mean, pretty quickly we get our first death. So about a month later, Todd dies. And it's made to look like a suicide by death, that he hung himself. Which he did not, obviously. And then we quickly meet Tony Todd, who is going to be a central figure throughout all of these films.
Oh, 75 is freaking so awesome. I
Yeah,
mean, it looks like death encircles him and embodies him so much.
yeah.
But John Denver died tragically in a plane crash on October 12th, 1997.
There you go. So
But
right before this film was
I was about
filmed.
to say, I mean, I can't believe they mentioned that, like that iconic, like 3 years later.
Yeah.
I mean, that's wild.
And you figure it came out 3 years later, so they were filming it probably the year after he died.
Exactly.
So yeah, it could have been like the dude that sings La Bamba. That was a long time
Oh,
ago. They could
most
have done
definitely.
that.
Most definitely.
um,
Ricky Valance,
Ricky Valance, yeah. So yeah, his name is Bloodworth, right? And he's the mortician.
Mr. Bloodworth.
Yeah, and he gives them an idea of, what's happening. He gives us the premise of the entire franchise, saying that you were supposed to die, now you've changed Death's pattern, Death's plan, and you're probably going to die next. And
Did you notice the FBI agents' names?
I did not know.
Agent Weenie and Agent Shrek.
And we're skipping ahead, but again, we're reviewing all 5 movies, so it's okay. What's interesting to me is in the 5th movie, which is technically a prequel, right?
Yes.
Bloodworth meets up with all of them and is talking to them, and he's saying, "I've seen this before." And at that point, he wasn't a mortician; he was a coroner. But
Yes,
he says
and
he's seen
that's
this
why.
before, so I'd like to know when this all started. Like,
Well, I'm wondering if it has anything to do with Bloodlines.
well, so I believe it does because this movie has been in talks for years. And the original plan was it was going to be completely different. It was going to focus on EMTs and stuff like that instead of the victims. But it was also going to focus on Bloodworth's origins. So I don't know if it still is. I still know he's a very central character to the film, but
He's
he passed away. The actor
he's
passed away.
actually like number two on the list of
The
like when they
billing.
billing.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
number two, right after the girl that plays in it.
So I'm very interested to see what that's like. But yeah, the first movie, I mean, we don't have to go through all of it. Pretty much everybody dies, right? Like, pretty much everyone is killed off in different ways. They figure out that maybe if you save someone, it skips them in the line. So, like, Carter gets saved at one point by Alex, which immediately leads to Billy dying. A bunch of different stuff happening. But so this movie ends, right? Unless you have more to talk about on the first one.
No.
This movie ends with, we think we've beaten death. Carter, Alex, and Clear all finally take that trip to Paris, which isn't very long after all this stuff happened. But then Alex realizes that he wasn't skipped and he's gonna die, and Carter saves him. And then Carter immediately dies.
Nice.
But it ends with Clear and Alex still being alive. So it's like, oh, okay, maybe they're gonna survive.
And then on to part two,
And then on to part two.
Alex dies in a what was it, a brick or
Yeah, a
something hitting
brick
him
fell and hit
or
him in the head. Yeah,
in an alleyway.
yeah.
I mean, what a way to die.
Yeah, so Clear is still alive in the second film, but
Yes.
she has reclused herself to a rubber room to try to stay alive. So the second one came out in 2003, so 3 years later. We did for a while have 3 year gaps between each film. And like I said, this one was directed by David Ellis. This one, the budget was about the same, 26 million. It did make less. This one made 90 million.
Almost
Um,
91.
yeah, almost 91. Still did well. The song for this one is Highway to Hell, which makes sense because the accident is the probably we talked about the most iconic scene, or at least, vehicle or anything in these films is the log truck.
So I originally saw this with my best friend Donald, and for I would say for a good 6 months after this film, every time we came to a log truck, we were around it. I mean, that log truck scene is devastating.
It's the
I
same.
mean,
It's the same as watching Dukes of Hazzard, and every time you see a car transporter with the ramp, you want to ramp it. It's the same thing.
no, I mean, I'll tell you that I always, when I go around a log truck or anything that's hauling something like that, and I used to be an escort for oversized loads,
Mhm.
so I kind of, I look for those, I look for those like straps and stuff and make sure
Yeah.
they're tight.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be around them if they're going like this.
Well, yeah, because in this the chain breaks, right? That's what the
Chain
breaks.
breaks.
Yeah.
The first log falls off to the left,
Yeah.
and it comes back and smashes right through the cop's
Yeah.
vehicle.
Right through it. One thing I forgot to say that I did say I was going to say is the timeline for premonition. So the first film, it's 15 minutes in, we have the premonition. This movie, 6 minutes in, we get the premonition. And we right when the premonition happens, we see road work 180 feet ahead.
Yes.
So we get the 180. And so Kimberly, right, is driving and has this premonition. So she pulls off on an on ramp, blocking all the traffic, which just happens to be everyone she saw die.
Yes.
And a cop comes up, starts interrogating her, seeing what's trying to go on. All the people we're going to meet later get out and start freaking out that they're waiting in traffic. And as they're talking, a truck comes by and smashes into her friend's car and kills them all. And the cop pushed her out of the way. So my thought, just thinking about it now, the cop was the first one that died in this movie, in the premonition.
Yes.
But they go in reverse order in this one, right?
Yes, they go in reverse order now.
Yeah, but I don't know if that was because he saved her at the beginning. I can't remember. You were telling me what the
No, no,
reason
no,
was.
no. The whole entire death in the part two is in reverse order.
Yeah. Do
You
we
know,
know
it
why
always goes
though?
backwards. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think they did mention it, but I cannot remember why.
I don't know if they mentioned it or not. Um,
I don't know. I think if they did, it was the mortician that mentioned it. But if you know, throw it in the comments so we know going into this movie at the end of the week. Um, so yeah, like he said, we find out that Alex died in between movies. That was pretty cool. It's just the cop investigating stuff and he sees it. I do find one thing, I know it's movie magic. I find one thing very interesting that police aren't cued in on this stuff by now. Like by the third or fourth movie, you think the cops will be like, "Here we go again," right? Because it's all in basically the same area, I
Same
think,
area.
right? Like near McKinley.
Yes,
So you would think they'd have an idea, but maybe they just can't believe it. Um, so the douchey kid Evan is the first one to die. He has a fire escape ladder fall on his face.
that was
Because
just right through his eye.
I love when they make you feel like they escaped and then they didn't.
Yes, yes,
That's so
it's
interesting.
so awesome.
But we talked about Clear, so Kimberly goes to visit Clear and try to get her to help her. And Clear just, straight up refuses. Um, so there's a very funny line in this movie too, where the kid and his mom are at the dentist office.
So you were saying about the Evan being
Yeah,
the first step there
yeah,
and falling down. So Evan actually was one of the most luckiest characters.
yeah,
He won the lottery the day before,
yep,
gets saved from the huge accident,
yep,
and then there were so many things that happened
mm-hmm,
during that death scene
yep,
that could have killed him to begin with, but
right,
then he caught the whole entire place almost on fire.
yep.
I mean,
Which
so
which
many
was very
things.
which was very similar to his actual death because he wrecked and caught on fire but wasn't dead.
Wasn't dead
And then at
until
the
that
end,
big
that truck
tractor
came and
trailer
blew
came
him
through
up.
and blew
Yeah.
him up. Yep.
So, the last people to die would have been Kimberly and her friends, and
Yes.
that's why the cops saving her kind of jumped her, right?
Yes.
So yeah, but there's a very funny line when the kid and his mom are at the dentist office where the kid looks at his mom and he goes, "Hey, if he gives me the gas and I wake up with my pants down, we're not paying." Very good. But yeah, the kid dies. The mom then very quickly dies. And then we go back to Kimberly's house and Clear is there. And Clear's like, all right, well, I'm going to help you. We're going to go talk to this guy who I think knows what's going on. And they go talk to Bloodworth.
Lovely. Yep.
Yep. So they meet with Bloodworth, and here's an issue that our friend Mundo has with this upcoming film, and I'm sure other people do, is this scene right here in two is disproven by the fifth film. And what happens in this one is that Bloodworth tells them the only way that this can be broken is new life can defeat death.
Yes.
And the whole premise of the new movie is that the descendants are being killed because the grandmother should have died and not had any of these kids.
Not had any kids.
Yeah. So, but here's my thing. Just because the mortician said about new life gets rid of this, he also says he doesn't know anything. And we never see that new life actually canceled out death anywhere, except the very end of this film, because they die and are resuscitated. So I guess. But I was telling you in the third film in the special features, we see that Kimberly and the cop actually die. Um, but that's not considered canon by Final Destination people. So my assumption is with this sixth film, it's going to become canon that they're dead, and so no one has ever escaped death's design.
Yes. Well, I think this came from Bloodworth. Um, I'm pretty sure he said in the end, no one can escape death.
Right. Which is
I mean,
which is
it's
just factual.
It's just factual.
Like
we are both going to die someday.
Right.
Do we know how we're going to die? No. Hopefully, it's not from a log truck.
Yeah. I tell people all the time, I'm like, man, I'm dying. They're like, don't say that. I'm like, look, dude, we're all in pre-death. Like,
Yes.
that's just what we are. You're close.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So when he says about the new life, right? They remember the pregnant lady, from the Rex, and she never
Yeah.
came into the police station or anything. So they're trying to find her very badly. So they put an APB out on her, and there's a very dumb line that the sheriff has, and they're like, "We don't know how we're gonna find him." And he goes, "Don't you know I'm a cop?" And he just takes them to like the place and starts looking stuff up. So then they have, which happens a couple times in these films, they have a meeting of all the survivors. They bring all the survivors together. And I was wrong. The mom did not die yet because she has the really cool elevator death.
Yes.
Yeah.
Her head in the elevator.
In the elevator.
Yes.
Yep. And they have one thing in these movies is that the person that had the premonition has more premonitions about how people are going to die. And so they imagined this that the mother is going to die with death by hooks,
Yes.
which we know she's in the elevator with a guy with a bunch of
Hooks.
prosthetics. And he looks creepy. Like I thought he was sent there to
He does.
kill her, and then immediately it's like, oh no,
He's trying to save her.
he's scared too. Yeah.
Yeah.
So then we get something that comes back in the fourth film, which is interesting because it's the same director. One of the characters tries to kill himself. Eugene tries to kill himself
He pulls the trigger on the gun 6 times.
for all six shells, and it was loaded.
It was loaded because the cop
Yeah.
shows you.
Yeah, but he couldn't die because death wouldn't let him die
No,
yet.
wasn't
It
his
wasn't
time.
yet his turn. So they all talk about cheating death then. We get a very interesting. I want to run down this because I was telling you this was an idea I loved that they did not continue on with, except a little blip in the fifth film, where it showed Olivia was actually on the roller coaster from the third movie. I don't know if you caught that or not. She had a picture of herself on the roller coaster that in the third film that big accident happened on.
Okay.
But so this is what I love in the second film. So they start talking about how all of them are connected to the people from Flight 180.
Yes.
So Vincent had transferred 2 days before a student killed their teacher, and the teacher he took over for was Val, who was
Yes.
the teacher from the first film that
Yes.
survived. Burke, his partner, was called to a shootout, but he was called to a train accident, and his partner was actually killed in a shootout where the Burke was actually cleaning up Billy's dead body.
Yep.
Kat was supposed to be on a bus going to an Airbnb in Pennsylvania, and the Airbnb had a gas leak and killed everyone there. But she
was the
didn't get there because the bus killed Terry. Yeah. And then Rory was supposed to be in a collapsing theater in Paris, but he saw Carter get killed while he was tripping on mushrooms. So he didn't go to that theater. Yeah, they all just have connections to all of them. It's crazy. And I told you, I wish that had continued in the other movies because that's captivating. That ties all the movies in together because then we don't have to have what I think is kind of dumb in all these movies where they all just have to be like, oh, well, that one time on Flight 180, blah, 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 and have to give you all the plot. We've seen the movies. You don't have to tell us it over and over.
Exactly.
Or like we can just know that happened. But yeah, so they figure, oh, this is where it is. I had the note. So they figure out why it's working in reverse order because if they hadn't got off the plane, all of these people would already be dead, is the reason they come up with. So why that matters, I don't know. But so then we get one of the cooler death scenes in these with Kat and Roy. Kat, they're in a really bad car accident trying to catch up with the pregnant lady on this farm. Yeah. And so yeah, so Kat gets the airbag deployed when they're trying to cut her out, and her head slams back into the PVC pipe and kills her. And then so Roy, she drops her cigarette when she dies and causes an explosion. And my favorite death scene in the entire franchise happens with the barbed wire running towards Roy and it splits him in half. It's so cool. But then, hey, the baby's born, right? They get to the hospital, the baby's born, and they're like, oh my God, we defeated it. And it's really funny because the pregnant lady goes, who are these people? She has no idea who they are. Yeah, but they're ecstatic because they think it happened. But then they realize in the premonition that Isabella never died. She never died, so she had nothing to do with this. And as soon as that happens, Clear goes to see Eugene, and Eugene's like oxygen tank explodes and kills both of them. Yep. So then Kimberly is like, well, if I die, it'll change everything. So she drives her van into the lake and drowns and gets resuscitated. And her and the cop, Burke, Thomas, they both live. And so that, kind of encapsulates the new life ending things. So I'll be interested to see. They have to address it somehow in this film. They've had 14 years. They better address it because people are not going to be happy. And then we go back to the farm, the Gibbons farm, and the kid had saved Roy.
Yes.
And so the kid was then set for death, and he explodes, and his arm flies over and lands in front of his mom's
Mother.
plate. So on to three, we're back to James Wong. This one came out in 2006. Budget for this one was 28 million, and it made almost 120. So again, these movies just keep making money. Um, and so yeah, again, directed by James Wong. This is the first one that played with the idea of deja vu, blatantly saying it. The other ones did not, but this one blatantly was saying, hey, I have deja vu. It
Yeah.
takes us nearly 20 minutes to get to the premonition in this one.
Yes.
And it's interesting. Like, I'd love to know if anyone on here works at Hershey Park or anything like that, and you're ride operators. If someone's requesting, "Hey, get me off," are you just gonna tell them no? Like that, like James, right? The boyfriend is
Yes.
screaming, saying,
Screaming.
let me off," and they don't. Then he
They don't.
dies. Yeah, and then he dies.
Um, did you see it right in the beginning? When she takes that picture,
The die.
the die,
Yeah,
high dive, it's
yeah.
supposed to be high dive, and
Yeah,
then
yeah, they're on one of those rides that takes you up and drops you, and yeah, it's called high dive. But when she takes the picture, the V is
disappears.
yeah. Well, it's like
It's still there,
it's
but it's
they're lit
not
up.
lit.
Yeah, it's not lit, which is weird because then she looks back up and it is still lit. So
Hmm.
yeah, it quickly shows us that pictures are going to play a big deal in this, kind of like they did in the Back to the Future movies. So I have a pet peeve about all films and honestly real life too, because you see this with real life cops. Why, when someone is all shook up and mad, do you think yelling calm down at them is going to help? Like
I guess not.
when you're at IHOP and a customer's irate, are you just standing there like calm down and is that going to fix it? No, that doesn't. That makes you more pissed off.
You know what I want to say to them?
I mean, sure, you
Sit the
want to.
fuck
Yeah,
down.
you want to, but that doesn't fix anything. But that's always a thing in movies. They're just like, calm down, calm down. You calm down. Uh, so about a month after the accident, well, we didn't even say it. So it's a roller coaster accident in this one, right? Like,
Mhm.
yeah, so all these people get off the roller coaster. And a little bit later, Kevin tells Wendy, so there are two main characters, about Flight 180. And I said it here in my notes because for some reason we constantly need them to tell us about the other movies despite having seen them.
Do we know? I mean, did you tell them that this movie is actually 6 years after
Right.
it says?
Yep.
It actually makes the comment
Yep.
that it's 6 years after Flight 180.
Which was interesting because this actually came out 6 years after the first movie did.
Yes, where the
But the
second
second
part
one,
said
yeah,
it was a year later, and it
yeah,
actually came out 3 years
yeah,
after.
yeah.
Yes,
So timelines are very interesting. At least they bring it
yes.
up. At least they tell
Hmm.
us, right? So then we get our girls Ashley and Ashlyn going to a tanning salon, and we get our first death song, which is "Love Roller Coaster." And there's a very funny scene. They're both naked, laying in tanning beds, jamming out to that song.
Yes.
But so
Would
Wendy,
you be jamming out to a song called Roller Coaster
like 2 days
2 days
after,
after you freaking was on a roller coaster accident? Or
no,
you supposed to be?
but those girls actually they didn't
There
care.
was
They were
no.
completely self-centered and everything. They didn't
Yes.
care. So we get our first instance in this one of someone dying after looking at pictures. So
Mhm.
Wendy's looking at a picture and she took a picture of Ashley and Ashlyn holding this like pineapple, I think, or like a palm tree
Yes.
floated.
Yep.
And the picture looks like they're on fire. And sure enough, they burned to death in the tanning beds. And then the funeral takes place for the survivors. So this was different than the other movies. The funerals for the other ones were before anyone else had died. It was just the initial accident. This one,
Hmm.
we get the funeral for these two girls. So I thought that was really interesting. And then we get some rapid fire deaths. So the perv, I don't even remember his name, Frankie. I think it's
Frankie.
Frankie. Yeah, Frankie gets killed in a drive-through, and Lewis gets his head crushed at the gym.
That was a cool
Yeah,
scene.
very cool.
The
Very cool.
knives come down,
Yeah.
slice the rope on the
Hey, this is the weight room death.
the weight
Yeah.
room.
Yeah.
Yes, sliced the rope,
Yeah.
and he pulls it up and automatically leaves it back up and smash.
Makes me not want to lift weights this far.
Or at least on a machine like
Yeah. Yeah.
that. I always look above to make
Yep.
sure there's no knives hanging
No, no
there.
swords or anything. Yeah.
No swords, nothing.
And then so Ian and Aaron either own or work at a hardware store. And so Kevin and Wendy head to the hardware store to talk to them. And Ian gets saved, but Aaron falls against a nail gun and has a nail gun shoot her all through the head.
Mhm.
Um, so then after this, Wendy's trying to figure out who's next from the pictures, and she sees a blurred picture of someone sitting in front of her, that she notices the bracelet.
And it's her sister.
It's her sister, yeah, and
Yep.
and someone else. They don't know who, but she was there with a friend.
Yeah.
So that prompts Wendy to start, going after her sister, and we get the song that is actually the one that people are dying for when and there's someone behind you.
Someone walking behind you.
Yeah, someone walking
Yep.
behind you. Yep. So they're at the Centennial, right? Kevin's working security. And Wendy shows up trying to find her sister. A horse comes by and grabs her sister and starts dragging her through. And right as she's about to be killed and impaled by like a plow or something, Kevin runs up and cuts the cord and saves her. And then her friend, who they didn't know, they're asking her like, which friend was with you? And you see the one girl in like the pink stand up all concerned, and she immediately gets impaled by something and killed. And then Kevin gets kicked by a horse and almost explodes with a grill, I think. And Wendy saves him.
Pulls him back.
Yep, Wendy saves him.
You know, when you see the lightning, um, it was very funny because there was a statue or something of Ben Franklin.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
all of a sudden Kevin says, "Fuck you, Ben Franklin." I thought that was so cool.
And then I don't remember this happening in the other movies, but it happens right here that Ian decides he's going to try to kill Wendy because if they kill someone, he thinks it'll skip him.
Yes.
But that does not happen. Ian gets destroyed by a sign.
Yep.
A McKinley sign falls and kills Ian McKinley. Yeah, kills Ian McKinley.
I wonder if this and McKinley comes up a lot in these in this franchise, and I'm wondering if it's a town name, like
I think it is because they're playing against McKinley High School.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think it's high school. So we get what we get in the other movies where it's like so many months later. So
5 months.
5 months later, we hear Wendy is on a subway train, and there's a guy with a guitar playing. There's someone walking behind you.
Mm-hmm.
So she's like, "Oh no, this hasn't happened." And then, right as her sister gets on, and she's blocked by a bunch of McKinley fans. So she still is unable to escape the McKinley thing. Yep. She looks in a mirror and sees that she's on subway car 180. And she knows this is it. I'm gonna die. And then she looks up and Kevin is there. And so she's like, oh no, because it has to go Kevin, her sister, and then her.
Yes.
And it does. The train derails, and they all die, and she realizes that's a premonition. But James Wong wanted to give a big FU to anyone watching, and the premonition just goes back to when the train car closed, and it was too late.
So you were saying earlier about Tony Todd. Mm-hmm. This is like one of the first movies he's not in.
Right, it is the first, yeah.
And in the beginning, I told you that he was the devil's voice.
Yep.
And at the end, the train or whatever,
the conductor.
The conductor or whatever comes across and it says it's the end of the line.
Yeah.
That was his voice too.
Yep, and it was him.
Yes.
So, yeah, they're all dead. So then we jump to the Final Destination, which I didn't realize until watching this, but it makes sense. It was filmed for 3D. This movie, they almost doubled their budget. This movie had a budget of $40 million.
And it made $186 million.
Yeah, nearly 200. It nearly
almost
five
almost
times.
double.
Yeah.
Well, it was double part two,
Yeah.
and almost double, the other ones.
Yeah, so this one made a ton of money. And I'll say it right off the bat, you can see how much more budget this movie has because the uptick in quality, and it was only 3 years later again, the uptick in
Yes,
video quality was insane.
2009,
Yeah. This was
and
also the first summer release. So these were all released in the early year, the first three, which
okay.
is usually when crappy horror movies come out because they
Hmm.
don't think they're going to make any money. This one was actually released in the summer. And again, this one's directed by David Ellis. Um, some very funny stuff from the beginning, man. I mean, it starts with a Shinedown song, which rips. I added it to my Spotify. I liked songs yesterday. And tampons for earplugs is so
That
funny.
is freaking amazing.
So funny, dude. And it's very cool because it shows us pretty quickly that the racetrack has issues because they're showing us that like the benches are cracked, the foundation's starting to crack, all these things that are freaking you out. But again, this is David Ellis, and David Ellis is all about getting the premonitions very quickly. This
Yes.
premonition happens 7 minutes in. So very quickly, and it's a huge car wreck.
NASCAR
Yeah,
wreck.
yeah, huge
And
NASCAR wreck.
you know, like getting off subject a little bit. So I love going to NASCAR races too. I mean, I've been to a few, and this movie wasn't out when I went to my one NASCAR race. When right in front of me, uh, um, I'm trying to think of who it was. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But someone flipped right in front of me. If this movie would have been out, I don't know if I could have sat through
You
that.
would you would have crapped your
That's
pants.
almost
Yeah,
definitely. It
yeah.
was it was wild. I mean, yeah, people go to races to watch the wrecks, but
Not that up close and personal.
not that up close and personal. Plus, you don't want to see anybody get hurt.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
big one in 2000. What was it? 2001 when Del
Earnhardt.
Earnhardt got killed,
Yeah.
just smashing into a wall.
Right.
Would that happen today? Probably
No.
not with all the safety restrictions they put
No, I
on.
mean he's the reason they developed the Homs device, which keeps your
Hmm.
neck. Because what happened is his neck got broken.
Yes.
Like he didn't wear the Homs device, so not everybody wears it. So unless your car catches on fire, it's hard to die in one of these. And even when they
Exactly. Even
do,
when they catch on fire, they're wearing the fireproof suits
yeah,
that they walk out fire everywhere and they
yeah,
just spray them off and they're fine.
yeah.
Um, yeah, what a thrill.
Yeah, but so one thing this movie did that I really enjoyed is instead of the premonition happening and some guy freaking out and everyone just following him, this one does it differently. He comes back and he starts saying things that are about to happen as they
Yes,
happen.
as they before they happen.
Yeah,
The guy with the cowboy hat.
yeah. He
He's gonna
goes,
come down and sit down right in front of us, and then
yep,
automatically it happens, and
yep. Then he
and they're just
says,
like freaking out.
yeah, he says tampons for ears. He
Yeah.
says, and this will be important later. He says about move your feet down in front, and all these things happen. Which at the end of the film they happen again in the movie theater. Those couple
Oh
things
yes,
happen.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
But yeah, it's really cool. And he gets up and starts to leave, and he falls on a guy. He falls on the mechanic, and then he kicks over some other guy's beer, I think. And that prompts these dudes to get pissed off and chase him
Yes.
rather than just leaving because they know what's going to happen.
Hmm.
So that was really cool. And then immediately he's like, there's going to be a huge wreck, and the security guard's like, what wreck? And then boom, everything explodes, and the mechanic's wife is standing there talking to him, and
Tire.
and that was for
Flies
that
over.
was for 3D. 100% that was for
Most
3D.
definitely.
Yeah, it comes down and just smashes her right in
I'm,
front of them.
I am really thinking I saw this in 3D.
Yeah.
I think I saw it in 3D when it first came out.
Yeah, 2009.
It's
probably.
awesome.
Yeah. I wasn't old enough. I was 14. I wasn't old enough to go see this.
Well, so you talk about being 14. So my youngest son, Aiden, he is 14, and we watched the first three together.
Yeah.
But I mean, nowadays, these movies would have been probably uh,
I
a lot
think-
of the swearing and stuff in the
Yeah.
first two, but beyond that, I mean, it's just blood and guts, and
Yeah.
they play worse than that on their Xbox
Yeah.
and computer games.
Yeah,
I mean,
100%, 100%. And so right here, we also get a sick thing we didn't get in the other movies, and a very sick opening title screen where it's showing us like kind of like the Mythbusters setup, like Discovery Channel, where it's showing all the people die, and it's showing people dying in the first couple movies, but as skeletons. So
Oh, yes.
yeah, I thought that was really cool. Um, and so we also get something a little different where they go to the memorial for all the dead people, and the mom that was putting tampons in her kids' ears calls Nick, the guy that had the premonition, a hero
Yes.
and thanks him. That didn't happen to any of the other ones
No.
at all. Yeah,
No, they thought they were, especially the first one.
yeah,
They thought Alex was, and they thought Alex was the terrorist or
yeah,
whatever. They thought he actually blew up the plane.
yep, yep.
I mean,
And that happens in other ones too. We also skipped over what we said about it. Like the redneck dude using the hard R with the security guard was
oh,
kind
that
of
was
insane.
bad. That was insane.
Yeah, it made you really want this guy to die, which fun fact, he dies pretty quickly. So, you
His
know,
death is like wow.
this is, one of the first instances we get of survivors trying to kill each other.
Yes,
So this dude shows up, and his name is also Carter, which we now have two movies that there's Carters that are
yep.
douchebags.
This is Carter Daniels.
Yes, and
Hmm.
Carter shows up at the black security guard's house with a cross that he's going to put in his yard, like the KKK did.
And burn it.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
going to put a burning cross in his yard. But then he is a tow truck driver and gets drugged by his own tow truck down the yard, and then he gets lit on fire and dies. Which I was telling you, that is very symbolic for what used to happen to black people under Jim Crow and things like
Yes.
that. So that was one of the most satisfying deaths in this entire franchise.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yep.
The next death though.
Take it, take it.
I mean, what is she? I mean,
Samantha.
she's in a spa or whatever. She's getting her
Yeah,
nails. She's getting her nails. She's getting her
yeah.
hair. Everything done. And but the way she dies, the it shows the boys, her two boys throwing rocks, and I think they're trying to hit the guy
They
that
were trying to hit a
actually.
sign.
Oh, they're trying to hit the sign.
Yeah,
Well, they came close to hitting the guy that's
yeah,
mowing the grass
yeah.
across the park or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and they're just throwing these little rocks, like little pebbles, and keeps on tossing them. And after her appointment's done, I mean, she almost gets hit by the hanging fan.
Hmm.
It comes out of the ceiling, drops right in front of her, and we think she's gonna die there. But and that's what I like about all these movies. Like going back to what's his name, and that gets killed in the first part with the through the eye,
Yeah,
the ladder or whatever it is.
right.
Um, he could have died so many times in that whole
Yeah,
entire scene,
yeah.
and I love how they just
The idea of hope.
the
Right.
idea of hope
Yeah.
of survival.
Yeah.
They think they're going to survive, and then all of a sudden they just get taken out. She turns around, walks out, and gets hit by one of the pebbles that her kids threw. It flies out of the bottom of the lawnmower and hits her right smack in the eye, and she falls
Yeah.
over and dies. That is so cool.
Yeah. And then
I mean, we don't want death, but I mean
no.
that's freaking
Well,
awesome.
you go to these movies wanting death, though.
Yeah, of course.
So then Nick and his girlfriend go to find the mechanic. They go with the security guard to find the mechanic, and they're talking to him, and they're like, "Hey, you're next," and things like that. And he almost gets backed into by a truck, but does not. So he walks away and he goes, "Oh, it's not my time yet." And then a tank explodes and torpedoes him into the fence and kills him.
But so he is talking. Nick is talking to Hunt,
Yeah,
and Hunt is Nick Zano.
right.
And if you know Nick Zano, do you know what big thing he was in?
I can't think of it.
DC's Legends of Tomorrow.
Oh, okay.
He was in like a freaking huge amount of episodes, like 96 episodes or whatever he played. I can't remember his character, but he was awesome.
Nice.
And
That's the CW.
yeah, the
DC
CW
stuff.
one,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah,
I watched that for like the longest time, and then I don't know. I got too many things I'm watching,
yeah.
and
We're pretty
you just
oversaturated.
keep on putting more and more things on my list.
Yeah, I don't know if we announced this, but Final Destination comes out, on the next week on the 16th. The week after that, the new Mission Impossible comes out, so he and I are going to be doing this for that as well. And they're not 90-minute movies.
They're like 20-minute movies.
So that's gonna.
I haven't even started them yet.
Yeah, so that's gonna be an ordeal too. But so we're releasing this episode, then we're gonna go see the new Final Destination, release an episode on that, then we're gonna do the exact same thing for Mission Impossible. So stay tuned. We've got a lot coming. Yeah.
No, I'm going back to that spot there. Um, Nick is talking to what is his character, Hunt, and he says he's trying to warn him of the deaths and stuff coming up. He goes, you know what? Hunt goes, dying, if I am dying or not dying, I'm trying, or whatever the comment was,
Because he's like, I just saw my wife die in front of me.
Doesn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, he just wants to live his life
to
the fullest, and his death is beyond. I mean, that was disgusting and everything. We talked about that.
Yeah. And so, going forward on it now, like, if any of you have watched any of the Forest Film Club podcasts or a lot of the ones I do, my favorite thing in movies is a small character that blows it away. We get that with the homeless guy in this one. The homeless guy is asking for change. He's like, do you have any change for a struggling artist? And she gives him some, and he's picking through it, and he goes, a penny? Well, that's bullshit. And he just hucks it. I love that so much. So then Janet and Hunt are like simultaneously going to die because they were crushed at the exact same moment in the movie. So the two characters split off, right? Nick and his girlfriend split off to find their friends respectively.
So, when I think it's Nick, no, I think it's her. I think Lori is in the van with George or whatever.
George, yeah, George.
And they're sitting beside. They're sitting beside this this sign or whatever. And do you realize what the sign said?
Oh, Nick was beside that.
Was it Nick? Yeah. Okay, I couldn't remember who was signed, but it was the sign said "Clear Rivers Water."
Yeah.
And that was about the time period of when they're both going to die simultaneously. They see this water thing.
Yep. Yep. So he gets that premonition. So he's calling Hunt and everybody. He's like, stay away from water. Sure enough, Hunt is sitting at a pool and Janet is in a car wash.
I know. The car wash scene is cool.
Yep.
You gotta.
So yeah, the car wash scene's insane. She's got like, those toys that are like McDonald's toys that have the car and a head peeking out the top. That's what she's doing, trying to not drown in her own car because the sunroof is open in the car wash.
Yes.
And she can't get out. Hunt is swimming in a pool.
I don't know about you, but if I had a car with a sunroof and the sunroof was acting up to begin with, I don't know if I'd go through a car wash.
No, I would not.
She was a little stupid.
Yeah. But so Lori shows up and saves Janet. Janet is, rescued right before a pipe comes and smashes her car. Hunt, on the other hand, is already under the water, and Nick is looking everywhere for him but can't find him. And then Hunt gets sucked through the drain pump and just
blood everywhere.
Blood and organs
blood and guts
everywhere. And he knows it's him because we didn't talk about it earlier, but Hunt has a lucky coin.
The lucky coin.
And the lucky coin pops out. So yeah, very gross.
That was bad.
So then George finds out, he's next, right? And George, again, the security guard, had recently lost his kid and his wife in a drunk driving accident. He was the one that was drunk.
Yes.
So he wants to die. And Nick and Lori show up at his house, and he had hung himself. So everyone's like, "Oh my God, Lori's going to die next." No, George couldn't die. He's trying to hang himself and can't die because death won't let him.
Did you see though? I mean, did you hear though that he's been trying to die all day long?
Yeah, he tried to shoot himself.
He tried to kill himself. Like he tried to take pills. Yeah. He said he just took a bottle of pills and he threw them all back up because whatever.
And he went out to his car and hooked up the exhaust
window.
Yeah, he could not die. Could not die. Yeah. Which was a pretty funny scene. You can definitely tell though this was filmed for 3D because then they go to celebrate, right? And they're like, all right, well, we can't die. We must have fixed it. And they pop champagne, and you just see the cap like fly up and come at you, basically.
Yeah.
And then we get a very interesting twist that I hadn't thought about. A news channel comes on and says the cowboy didn't die.
Hmm.
And
Yes.
the reason this is important is because in the premonition, Nick and Lori had asked the cowboy to move, and when he did, he died.
Yes.
But because he didn't move, he
He.
survived in this, which that doesn't really make sense to me. How they all were gonna die and he survived, but hey, he did. He was under the rubble, was at the hospital.
Yes.
So Nick heads to the hospital. He meets George there, right? And they walk in right as the cowboy dies. They walk in, the cowboy gets crushed.
The falling ceiling and
Yeah.
everything. What hospital puts a whatever that's called? What is that like a
It's like a therapy tank.
therapy tank?
Yeah.
What hospital puts that on the
That
fourth,
floor.
fifth floor, whatever it is?
I don't know.
And then you see the water coming down on top of him, and he's like seeing this. He's laying in the hospital bed, seeing this dripping down on him. He's trying to reach over to the his remote to call in help,
Yeah.
and then you see the spark on the remote, and the remote falls on the ground, and he's like trying to crawl away from the whole scene. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh!
Yeah. So he dies, and then immediately we go outside, and Nick and George are talking, and George gets crushed by an ambulance. Absolutely crushed, and just they don't
Yes,
even show us it because it's so bloody. Um, and he gets crushed right as he's talking about deja vu. He's like, "Man, I just have this feeling of deja vu," and then
boom.
yeah, he's done. Um, and then so Lori and Janet were at a movie, right? Going to see a movie, and
Yes,
it explodes and kills them both. Premonition for the end, it jumps back, and sure enough, Nick is standing right there. But the premonition again, the director said F you because it happens right before George dies, and George still
and
dies.
yeah, you can't save him.
Yep. So Nick gets to the movie theater, and instead of going in and just saving his friends, he goes and he actually puts out the fire and saves their lives.
Yes.
And almost dies in the meantime. Um, there's a really cool line here then because it skips ahead to 2 weeks later. They're all meeting at Death by Caffeine. And you said there was a bus driving by, right? That was number 180.
Yes, yeah. Well,
Yeah,
actually, when the bus drives by, it pans like right on top of the bus,
yeah,
and it says 100, 180 or something like
yeah,
that on top
yeah.
of it.
Um, and so, they're all sitting there talking. Nick gets this disgusting drink, right? It's pretty funny. And then he's looking at the table and there's things scratched out on it, like the time is now or something like that. And he looks up and he goes, "What if us being right here was the plan from the beginning? What if we didn't change anything?" And immediately a truck comes through and kills all three of them. So, hey, we are 4/5 of the way there, man.
So, so going back to the before the movie,
Hmm.
there we didn't cover. Well, I mean, we're not covering everything, but I thought it was a cool scene where Lori gets her foot
Yeah.
caught in the escalator going up.
Yeah.
And it's really wild because her friend, what's her friend's name?
Janet.
Janet is trying to pull her out. Can you imagine watching
Oh,
that?
that was Nick. Nick was trying. Yeah. Nick and her like stuck there, and he's trying to pull her up, and she gets eviscerated.
No, I think before that, when she was
Um.
first going up the escalator
With her new shoes on.
with her new shoes
Yeah.
on.
Yeah. Yeah.
I totally forgot about Nick trying to. Oh yeah, that's when they were coming down the
Yeah. When
escalator,
she
and
actually
it
died.
cuts
Yeah.
off, and before he goes back for the premonition.
Yeah.
Yes, most
Yeah.
definitely.
But all right, so
Yeah.
Final Destination 5 came out 2 years after the other one, 2011. They were writing the scripts at the same time. This is a brand new director. This is Stephen Qualley. This movie had a budget again of 40 million. This one made nearly 160.
Yes.
So still doing very well.
New writer also.
Okay, didn't realize that.
Eric Heiser.
Okay.
Completely new writer. Completely new everything.
So this one is about a corporate retreat for a paper company. And the boss, I can't remember his name, but The boss is the same actor who plays oh my gosh, who's his name in The Office?
Oh,
Todd Packer.
yeah.
He plays Todd Packer. So in my head canon, this is Todd Packer if he left Dunder Mifflin and started his own paper. So The Office is included in the cinematic universe.
Oh.
So yeah, this is about a corporate retreat. This premonition kind of splits the difference. Like the other ones were at 6 minutes or 20 minutes. This was 13 minutes in. They had the premonition of the bridge being destroyed, and everyone dying. And for this one, I actually wrote down the deaths in order because I wanted to check them off as they died.
You were saying about you said about you was talking about the songs the whole entire time.
Yep.
This song is one of my favorite songs of all times by Kansas.
Yep.
Dust in the Wind.
Dust in the Wind.
Oh, I love the song. You know what TV show that song was actually a part of?
Mm-mm.
Highlander.
Oh, I've never seen Highlander.
Oh my God,
Yeah.
Highlander's so awesome.
Yeah,
6 seasons, and it's freaking amazing.
Is that the movies? They have anything to do with
So
that?
yes, the movies. So the movies start out, and Christopher Lambert, I think, is the star of the movies, and then Adrian Paul
Mm.
by Highlander 5 or something like that. He comes in and they introduce, and then they go right into the series.
Oh, okay.
And I think Christopher Lambert might be in the first episode of the series or something like that.
Okay.
And then it goes off. But that Dust in the Wind is like the freaking pinnacle song of the whole entire series. You hear it every episode.
Nice.
It is awesome.
I like that a lot. So yeah, our order, just for those keeping track, since this is the last one, we have a little bit of time left. So we got Candace. We have, I just call him the perv. Isaac, I think his name is. Olivia,
Isaac.
Nathan, the boss, Peter, and then Sam. Molly does not die in the premonition. Sam was actually able to save her. So right after it happens, we're once again back at the police station doing a touch base, and the mortician is back, and he confronts Sam and Peter as they're leaving the memorial, telling them that he's seen this before. Um, and our deaths come pretty quickly, man. You know, we go, Peter and Candace are dating. Candace is practicing for a. This makes me like, I don't know if I'm having a son or a daughter when I have a kid. This makes me not want to put my kid in gymnastics. Candace is working on her bar routine, right? And it's like something happens and the smoke billows out and she can't see, and she flips out and just like Humpty Dumpty sat in the wall and got crushed.
Gets majorly crushed.
Yeah, right in front of her boyfriend.
Yes.
And the mortician appears in the background looking at them but doesn't do anything. So this franchise does a very interesting thing of making us think, is he a person or is he a spirit of something? You don't know. I'm hoping this Bloodlines tells us what and who he is. I'm really hoping. And now that David Todd's no longer with us, it has to happen now because he's not going to be in anything ever again.
Tony Todd.
What did I say? Daniel Todd. I don't even know who that is. Tony Todd. Sorry.
Tony Todd.
Because, yeah, Tony Todd.
I can remember that name.
Yes. Yeah, Tony Todd's no longer with us. We find out pretty quickly that Olivia is kind of a bitch, and this is when we see she out of her desk she pulls a picture out, and it's of she was on that roller coaster from the third movie. I don't know if she was on at the same time as them, but that would make sense as a tie-in for this. And then our perv goes to a massage parlor and is trying to get happy endings, and he does not have a happy ending. He's getting acupuncture, and a fire starts, and he rolls off the table, and he gets smashed by Buddha, which is funny because he was making fun of the Buddha statue as he walked in, telling him to eat less food. So yeah, he dies quickly. Thank God. I mean, he was a piece of crap. He was stealing like dead people's stuff. Like, yeah, he was a real douche.
Yeah.
Then we go to Olivia, and she's going to get LASIK surgery, and
so cool.
The laser like malfunctions and burns her eye out. And it was funny because when she was sitting there, she was holding a stuffed animal and accidentally popped the eye off. So you knew something was going to happen to her eye. Then her eye gets eviscerated, but that doesn't kill her.
No.
She gets up and goes to run away and slips on the teddy bear's eye and falls out the window and dies.
Falls out the window, dies, crashes to the ground. and then you see her eyeball rolling across the
Uh,
thing. That was so awesome.
I was finishing this last night when my wife was sitting with me, and that's the only scene she saw. She was like, "What is this? Like, why are we watching this?"
So cool. So you're saying that she doesn't like movies like this.
No, not at all. So, if you're keeping track, our next person to die should be Nathan. And Nathan has had a very contentious relationship with his one employee, Roy. So, it's one of those deals where like you see this in Band of Brothers, you see this, in different areas where it's like working class people have some dude with a degree come in immediately and become their boss, and they're like
Mhm.
20 to 30 years they're younger. Um, and so Roy constantly is haggling this guy. So finally he's had enough. He sees on Roy's time card that he wrote "fuck you" instead of doing his timesheet. So Nathan's like, you know what? I'm going to confront him, and goes to confront him. And as he is, like crane hook falls. And so Nathan tries to save Roy's life and shoves him, but the crane falls in between them and breaks the floor, and Roy falls, and the hook goes through his head and kills him. So Nathan is skipped. If we're keeping with the idea if someone else dies or you save someone, you're skipped. That's what happens. And then Dennis is the boss, or Todd Dennis Packer is what we're gonna call him. He shows up and he's talking. He's like, "What happened?" And then immediately a sand belt throws a wrench through his head. So then we skip ahead a little bit, and Sam and Molly are rekindling their relationship, right? And they're at Sam is a chef. They're at his restaurant. He made her a nice dinner, and then it's going well. And then who shows up but Peter? And Peter comes in, and Peter tries to kill Molly. Um, while all this is going down, the federal agent who had been at the cop station at the beginning is outside listening, and he goes in to try to save them, and Peter kills him, which then should skip Peter. But Peter does not give up trying to kill Molly and keeps going, and Sam actually kills him with a meat skewer and ends that. And it's very cool because you said you haven't seen Novocaine yet, but I'm sure you've seen the trailer. Like, there's a very cool fight scene in a kitchen in Novocaine. This reminded me a lot of that, just not funny. Like, this wasn't meant to be funny. So yeah, Sam kills Peter. And we skip ahead to 2 weeks later. And so Sam was working on getting an internship in Paris. And he had accepted it right before all this stuff went down with Peter. So 2 weeks later, they're getting on the plane to head to Paris. And what happens?
So this was like I didn't remember this the first time I watched it. I like I was telling you, but it kind of like reminds me like you said about a 180.
Yeah.
You know, this whole franchise just did a 180
Yep.
and came back right around to flight 180.
Yep.
That's the flight they were getting on.
Yep.
So
Tells us this
that
is
was
a
one of my
prequel.
biggest things about this whole entire part five is that they didn't have no you didn't see no like flight 180, you didn't
Or
see
like
no
a
180
tie-in,
sign,
right?
you didn't see no tie-ins of the whole entire movie.
Yep.
And I was like, oh wow, I mean, wonder why they're not tying in. And then all of a sudden, right at the end, it was like a big shock.
Yep.
Boom.
Yep.
They're on 180 when Alex and them were being taken out. And then he finally realizes, Sam asked
He
the
overhears a flight
oh, he
attendant talking
overhears
to
it.
a
That's
woman.
right.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, he said he had a vision or something, whatever. And that's when he realizes that they were gonna die.
Yep. Because the other movies, what they did is, we had a premonition at the end of, oh my God, we're gonna die. This one, we didn't need that. They just tied it into the first movie and immediately had the airplane explode.
And that was wild.
Yep.
I totally forgot about that. I mean, I know I watched this movie before, but I just entirely forgot about that. It was wild.
Yep.
I had told you before. I don't know which one I said. I think it was part four, actually. Um, I think it was part four, and I made a note saying that um, I think yes, right here, like the garage death scene in part four, it was kind of rushed.
Yeah.
I mean, there was like a few things rushed in this
Yeah.
whole entire franchise, which I love the franchise. Don't get me wrong.
Sure, it's
I mean,
great.
it's freaking phenomenal. But I think, they wanted to keep it in an hour and a half, like most of them an hour and a half. And I believe they could have like extended it an hour and 45 minutes, 2 hours even. And yeah, it would have made our job a lot harder. But 2 hours and like dive into the deaths, some of the deaths a lot more
Yeah.
because I think some of them were just totally rushed. And
Well, and they showed you that too, because at the end of most movies, they kill off a bunch in rapid succession.
I know, like 3 or 4 at a time.
So, Final Destination Bloodlines, getting to that one,
Hour and
is
50 minutes.
nearly 2 hours long, which makes sense. Most
Yeah,
movies that come out now, if they're 90 minutes,
exactly.
like I went to see Clown in the Cornfield last night, which we'll have
Uh,
a review coming out shortly on that. Um, that movie was so quick. I think like the movie started at 9:20 and like at 11 o'clock we were leaving the theater. And that didn't even include trailers or anything. So it was very short. It was still very
yeah.
good. And there's a place for short films as long as they get it done. But I agree with you. There were some parts of this that probably took up too much time that didn't need to, and other ones that
Yes.
could have been expanded on. But all right, man, we've gone through all five. It didn't take nearly as long as I thought it would, which is good. So I have one thing for you. I want you to rank these for me
Mm.
from first to worst.
Well, I mean, I had to say part two is
Yep.
probably my
Is your number
favorite.
one?
Is
Okay.
my number one. The second one would have to be. I'm torn in between part three and part four.
Sure.
Um,
The second movie, like talking about your number one, is the most iconic.
uh,
It's
Most definitely.
it's my second favorite. My first favorite is number four.
Yeah,
Four is
I
my favorite.
mean, it probably goes 2, 4, 3,
Hmm.
and then you know, I like to say that I know that you said part one being your least favorite, but I think part one. I mean, it all revolves back to part one.
It does.
Everything revolves back to part one.
Yeah,
I just don't think the movie was as well made
it wasn't. And
as
it
the
was their
other.
first try. Like that's the other part.
Yeah, I mean, but there are a lot of movies that the first one is the iconic one,
Yeah,
one of the biggest ones, Back to the Future.
yeah.
You did that,
But
you know.
in horror franchises, a lot of
I,
times the first one's not the best. Like
yeah, you're right because
think about Terrifier. The first
or
Terrifier movie sucks.
never saw them.
The first Terrifier sucks, but it made enough money that
But
the other ones are really good.
go to Nightmare on Elm Street.
Or Halloween. Like,
Yes,
yes.
and like Nightmare on Elm Street Part One, it blows, and then Part Three and Four are my favorites.
Yeah.
I mean,
But
by
then
far,
Halloween, I brought that up. I shouldn't have
the
brought
new
up the
ones.
same one. The first one is, in my opinion, still the best Halloween movie.
No, I
No?
I disagree with that because I I love Jamie Lee Curtis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but the first one with Donald Sutherland and stuff, I think. So I'll tell you a little story here. So my best friend growing up, he lived next door to me, and it was wild that they loved Halloween movies.
Mm.
Now I'm like 11 years old probably at this time period. I'm 51 now, so 40 years ago, and freaking they had it on one night. Now we're talking nighttime. I live in a little town called Alpharetta, which is in the middle of freaking nowhere. There was probably two football fields in between my house and his house. They put it on to watch it, and that eerie fucking music of Halloween, and I had to run from his house to my house. How many seconds I ran that in because I hated it. Now I love it. I love the eerie music. I love but I
It's
think
iconic.
the last three movies they did, Halloween and then Halloween Kills and then Halloween Ends,
Mm-hmm.
the best three of the whole franchise ever made. I really love them.
Hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, and I have a soft spot for Halloween 3 Season of the Witch. I think that movie's awesome.
Wasn't that done by Rob Zombie?
It was something completely different. I mean, Michael Myers isn't even in the film.
Oh, that was the original three, the
Yeah.
first three.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't like the Rob Zombie ones.
No, I didn't either. They were so I've said this on a lot of podcasts. If you want to listen to our movie draft, we did was a lot of fun. I picked John Carpenter's Halloween for my horror movie. What I loved about those was the idea that they were slasher films with
Mhm.
zero blood. That was their whole thing. No blood, no gore, no anything. And then Rob Zombie comes in, and all it is
Blood.
gore.
Yes.
And they just weren't good. Like, I didn't enjoy them at all. If you like really bloody movies, cool. I like good movies, and if they happen to
Mhm.
be bloody like Final Destination, awesome. But I don't watch a movie for the gore. That's not my thing. But yeah, so you said your order was
So I went
2,
2,
4,
4, 3,
1, 5.
1, 5.
And mine's very similar. Mine's 4, 2, 3, 1, 5. I actually think 5 is worse than 1.
Yeah, I
I think
mean,
5's saving grace is the very end
very
where it
end.
ties into the first one.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Uh, just like I said, I mean, I think there was things that were rushed in probably all of them
Yeah.
because they weren't as long.
Yeah.
But the premonitions were awesome. I look back. I actually made notes of it. Premonition. Okay, I wanted to look up the exact definition of premonition,
Mhm.
and it said it's a strong feeling that something is about to happen, especially something unpleasant. So these premonitions weren't just something about ready to happen. They were total visions
Yeah.
of what was going to happen.
Yep.
They were beyond a premonition.
Yep.
And so, did you ever see the movie with Sandra Bullock, Premonition?
No.
Horrible movie. One of my
And you
worst
love
movies.
her. You
No,
love
I
Sandra.
love Sandra Bullock.
Yeah.
Sandra Bullock is my favorite actress of all time.
Yeah.
There was only a couple movies I didn't like of her. That one being one, and Lake House being one, and Gravity being the other.
Sure. Nobody likes Gravity.
Nobody likes Gravity.
If you do like Gravity, let me know. We'll review it.
Yeah, that'd be a 5-minute review. The movie sucks.
We'll just make it a TikTok. We won't make a full like video. We'll just do it. But yeah, man, I am, we went through these pretty quick. I am very, very excited for Bloodlines.
Very much so.
I am hoping you have had 14 years. Do not do what Beetlejuice did to me and make a
I didn't mind Beetlejuice. I mean, it was okay. The kids liked it.
Yeah, I mean,
but yeah, I know I was a huge Beetlejuice 1 fan.
Yeah.
And it was
to be fair though, I don't think Beetlejuice holds up. Michael Keaton holds up.
Michael
He's
Keaton,
phenomenal in
yes.
that. But if you want Michael Keaton
I love Winona Ryder.
well, yeah.
I mean,
she's great in
she's
everything
great.
but Beetlejuice. She was horrendous in that.
I thought Jenna Ortega though
Oh, Jenna Ortega was great.
was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we don't have to go into it. We did a whole Beetlejuice
Yes.
review. You can listen to it. But Winona Ryder in that movie is not Lydia Dietz. Lydia Dietz was the girl in the first movie who's strong, who's cool. This movie, she's just Winona Ryder being Winona Ryder.
Yeah.
She's not Lydia Dietz.
Yeah,
but
you're right.
Whatever. Yeah, I'm excited for Final Destination Bloodlines. We will have an episode coming out on that very shortly. As soon as we go see it, we're going at the day it comes out. So yeah, thanks for coming on and talk these.
Hey,
man.
thank you for inviting me, man.
Yeah, and we, if we missed anything, I'm sorry. We're going through them quick. We just wanted you to be fully prepared for this new movie. And if we see things we missed, we'll address them in the next episode. But that has been the Real Friends Podcast, and we will see you next time.